So, in this video, I'll be talking about why it's important to vote. Why does it matter? Why do electoral systems matter? And how do political elections affect our daily lives, if it does? In my opinion, we should vote. As a young adult, that's pretty infamous looking. We're pretty infamous in not voting and not caring. Um, there was an article in Washington Post by Catherine Rampel where it discusses how there's a pessimism towards politicians that young adults don't trust their presidents, their mayors, their state representatives, or their governors. And that tells you something. Supposedly, it comes down to when in 2008, President Obama's slogan was hope and bring change after the Great Recession. Yeah, a lot of those changes didn't happen. There are still poor people, there are still people who are unemployed, and still high debt. So for the young generation, that is, well, my generation, we see it as a sign that we can't trust anyone. I do understand where it comes to federally, we can't trust politicians. We don't see an impact in our vote. There's over 350 million people in the US. But state level, you can see change, except especially in smaller states. The state of Oregon may be a massive state, but the population is pretty small, less than 5 million people. So your vote can really impact what's going on. In the 2014 midterm elections, there was a ballot question to legalize marijuana, yes or no, and it did pass, but not in a large number. I do believe that the young adults who voted impacted that result. If you yourself smoke or was pro marijuana, then you not voting is a pretty bad sign. But there is change with young adults' outlook in that whole thing. Politicians tend to not look at young adults as an important voting demographic, and who can blame them? In an article in The Atlantic by Julia Beck, she talks about how there was a 148% surge in the 2018 midterm elections compared to the 2014 midterm elections. And I don't believe that was coincidence. I believe that by having President Trump elected in 2016, a lot of young adults in these liberal states such as California, Oregon, Washington State, and the Northeast saw that voting does matter, that just sitting back and not doing anything is not your best option. Now, when you don't vote and you don't do anything, that's considered sometimes as a free rider, where you get the benefits of an institution, but you don't actually do anything. Some of the signs of having an interest in community is individual expression by showing a bumper sticker or flag display or writing letters to newspapers, blogs, postings such as Facebook, or joining a collective action such as voting or joining a party or donating money to a specific leader that you want to be elected. If you don't do any of those things, yet complain about an issue in the government or in the country, and you didn't vote, does your opinion matter? I do believe people should vote. Some people are discouraged, especially for things like gerrymandering, which is common in the South, where they want to take out Black American votes. That's popular in North Carolina and South Carolina. Um, but in state level, you can really see the change of your vote, the importance of it. I do believe that not all young adults don't trust any of their politicians. Um, and that was shown in 2016 elections, that for them they couldn't trust Hillary Clinton, who was a cliche politician, but Bernie Sanders, who was different, new, an outsider, and he can be trusted. It wasn't coincidence that the state of Oregon and Washington voted for him. And U of O, it was pretty obvious who was the majority on who they wanted to win, and it was Bernie Sanders. And a lot of them didn't vote in the 2016 elections, believing that it was rigged that Hillary Clinton won. And that kind of outlook changed after Trump's election, and seeing how it does matter. His policies can be different than your opinions, and you can see change. Maybe immigration bans or building a wall. So, if you don't vote and your demographics don't vote, then why should people care about young adults, their opinions about getting free health care or education debts, By just voting, you show that you care. And it's pretty easy in the state of Oregon. Compared to other states, it's not. In the New York Times article by Jonathan Wolf, it discusses how there's no more registering on the day, or you have to go to a ballot place, you can't mail it. But in the state of Oregon, it's pretty easy. You have much notice. You can just drop it off like days before the election, and you just fill a bunch of bubbles. I do understand how it can be complicated for some people not knowing who these representatives are, but voting on important aspects like ballots about education, taxes, or for schools, or for legalizing marijuana or changing cigarette laws is important. A quote by a peer of mine, Sam Little, said, "Not only is the act of voting important, but also it's equally important to educate those about the impacts voting can make." And I do believe educating people is the first step for young adults to start voting and others.